Good morning. I wanted to come out and talk to you guys a little bit about these energies and give you a little bit of an update, tell you how I'm feeling and experiencing the energies, and see how you're experiencing the energies, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the energy fields. Chiron is going to be going retrograde tomorrow. The moon is gone void at 2:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and locked into Aries, if you will, at 7:18 a.m. The energies are really about a beautiful transit for us all. I'm feeling it so heavily in such an emotional way. It's an end of a cycle. It's closures. It's completions, right, that are taking place right now for all of us. It's our soul healing on a cosmic, spiritual level, right? It's diving into Aries and going direct. The moon is in Pisces. Heavy emotional energy there. We want to create something new, but we don't know what we want to create. We want to have some sort of leadership in our life, but we are being really brave about it and passionate and having some sort of courage, but we don't know what to do. We don't know what to create. So I'm wondering, are you guys welcoming these transits that are going on? Because there's 8 aspects going on, and 7 of them are involving the moon, which is really crazy. And Chiron, the wounded warrior, right? He's going to be going retrograde tomorrow. So that means we're going back inward, deep inwardly to the inner child, right? The wounded warrior. Seven of them are involving the moon, and the last day Chiron is direct is the last day Mercury is going to be in Cancer, and he's going to be moving into Leo. So 7/19, there's a lot of retrogrades going on and that are going to be taking place, and that's going to cause some stability, some instability, and some new, right? It's going to... For me, I know for me, it's given me an urgency to wrap up the old. Things that don't serve me any longer, right? To wrap them up, to close them, and complete that cycle. And there's a sense of urgency that I feel with the energies to do that. So let me look at my notes. So here, I have a couple things because I wanted to write about what I'm experiencing through the energies, and then I wanted to also kind of give you guys some of the actual education behind the transits, what they're doing, because astrology is about angles, mathematical angles and transits, right? And that's why it's really important to look at your natal chart and find out where the angles and the mathematical equations are taking place in your chart and in what house. Good morning. Good morning. Today's a huge day for all of us. And what we need to know is how to be true to ourselves, right? Because Chiron, if you know about Chiron, the wounded warrior, how he got wounded and how he helped Hercules with arrows, and he designed these arrows, and he actually accidentally shot himself in the leg teaching Hercules how to use these arrows, right? And so he was wounded by his own poison, so to speak. And so it's kind of a metaphor to me for us creating our own sensoria and piercing ourselves with our own arrows, our own doing, so to speak, our own sensoria, causing it, and then we're wounded. And so Chiron's going to be going retrograde tomorrow. And when it goes retrograde, that's going to be a lot of egoic work that's going to have to be done. The inner child work, you know, and you might be feeling deep emotional struggles. I know I am, because Mercury's there and it's assisting us with these emotional energies of our inner child. It's telling us to focus, right? Focus energies to communicate clearly, to set boundaries where boundaries need to be set and maybe we didn't set them in the past, where conflicting energies like old belief systems or patterns or ways that you behaved are falling away and now you're building anew. Let them fall, let them crumble, let them fall away. I've been doing one or two things during my journey, and you all know I've had a spiritual awakening March 28th, 2019. And so for me, these energies that are coming up are the victim mentality, right, that I had. The someone always did it to me. It's not my fault. It's someone else's fault, right? And so I've been bringing up these questions to myself, like, are you the victim? Before my shift, I would say, yes, I was. And after my shift, I say, no, I'm not, because I am the creator of my own reality, right? I manifest what I want through the thoughts I have. Thoughts, right? Consciousness gives rise to thought. And thought causes an emotion, which is a bundle of thoughts. Yes? And so I believe wholeheartedly where I sit now, being tossed into the kingdom of heaven, that we're very easily and willing to point it out in others, right? See what's wrong with them, see what they're doing, it's their, you know, that kind of thing. And I've realized that the identity of creating, of identifying in anything, labeling anything, he's a bully, you're mean, you know, that person's this, that person's that. There's no reason to label anything, because it's only what the mind says is so, right? Hello, darling, hello. So for me, the victim mentality is what's come up, and it's kind of like matches with Chiron, right? Like I'm the wounded warrior. I've had some legitimate traumas in my life that have wounded me emotionally. We all have, haven't we? We all have. And so do I run with those wounds and say, I'm the victim, that someone did that to me, when I was a willing participant to the reality of what was occurring? I don't think you can. And these energies are asking us to go back inside within oneself, to that inner child, to that egoic mind, right? The egoic mind it's an entity. That's what I call it, the Judy Judsons. It's a fucking entity. And it's an insatiable beast, and you feed it. How do you feed it? Because the ego wants to have an enemy, find something wrong with every situation, and win at any cost, and take its host down. Who's the host? The form you're in. Because the ego resides in the mind, right? And most are running on a egoic mind pattern that they were taught, that they learned from their upbringing, right? By no fault of their own. It's called survival at its fittest, and it's what we've done. All of us have done it. So these energies, for me, Mercury's assisting me to have emotions arise, right? And know that the emotions that may be arising, these emotions are a bundle of thoughts, right? Which is consciousness giving rise to thought, because consciousness wants to experience itself through our form, right? Consciousness has a subconscious and wants to experience anything and everything in this reality, right? In this matrix through our form. How? By bringing a thought to your mind. That's how things get created, right? And so these conflicting energies about old victim mentality, that's in the Piscean energy, right? That's because Pisces, the moon is in Pisces, and that's deep emotional energy, right? I don't know if you know any Piscean, people. I'm a double Pisces Cancer rising. So I'm feeling these energies extremely intensely, right? And the conflicting energies that I'm feeling are what I was just stating, the victimhood, right? And the learned behavior, right? And I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, we manifest our reality. It's not a secret. It's the law of attraction. It's the law of the universe. It's the way things go. It's the flow of the universe, right? And so I was taught in my upbringing by my parents and by the people who reared me, right? And my parents were not conscious. And so my parents raised their children with their false limiting belief patterns and attitudes and opinions and so forth, right? And we took that belief system up with us as children, and we began to model our parents, what our parents wanted us to do, what our parents taught us to do, the belief system they taught us, correct? Whether it was in good, bad, or indifferent, it didn't make any difference. Because my parents, like I said, were not conscious. If my parents were conscious, they would have raised different children, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, sociology-wise, in every aspect, right? I grew up in an environment with an alcoholic father and a codependent mother. So by the very retrospect, I learned about addictions and codependency, whether I wanted to or not, by no fault of my own, from my rearing in that environment. And so it wasn't until my awakening that I realized so many things. And so now it's not bad, it's not good, it's not anything, right? It's evolution, and that's where evolution was at the time that I was being reared. Even now, humanity on a collective level is in the grips of an peril, right? And if people don't wake up, they're going to destroy this planet and humanity. They're going to destroy themselves and this planet we live on because of the collective insanity that's going on in the habitual mind of the egoic pattern of each individual, collective, sentinel being. Yes? Not only as a person, I have a collective from my rearing, I also have a collective when I walk into a room and I feel the energy in the room and I can cut it with a knife and I make that statement. That's energy I'm picking up, right? And so it's quite crazy how we cope and we fragment things. And I wouldn't change it for a thing. It's the way we fragment things and we split off to cope with a situation that is beyond the depths of us within our five senses when we are below the age of 7. We're learning, we're modeling people, places, and things, and mostly our parents, right? And so Mercury's bringing up these emotional energies for me that my parents modeled within me. My mother was a codependent. Some people feel sorry for codependents because they go around cleaning up the mess of someone else, right? But it's not my mother's fault that she was raised that way. If I look back at her ancestral, my mother was of a large family and an identical twin and was adopted out. Could you imagine what my mother was experiencing at a very young age? Abandonment. Her mother and father didn't want her. She didn't know where she was going. She was scared, right? And so all the things that my mother taught me and my father taught me were based on their rearing. And so that's the evolution. And so evolution is evolving, and if humanity does not get on board, we're going to destroy ourselves. We've moved into some really profound energies with the fire energy of Aries, right? Aries is the warrior of the street. Everyone has to be heard. Everyone, even the underdog. And Aries doesn't stop until everyone is heard and treated fairly, right? And it was weird because I was in this victim mentality thinking, why do you feel those things? Where do those things come from? Again, Chiron taking me back inwards, right? And doing the inner work of where those wounds and the root problem initiated, where it began, where it started, right? And that's the inner work that this energy is bringing to us. I think the moon's even going to trine with Mercury. And before it's going to happen, it happened before the void, right? Before the void that I spoke about. And it what it's going to do is it's going to open up your heart space, right? It's going to, I call it head over heart. Head over heart. Are you making a head decision and reacting? Or are you making a head over heart decision? Are you making your decisions from your heart? Are you speaking from your heart? Because we have to be really careful right now in the words we use, the actions that we take, because these energies that are rushing in, they're not energies of take action, although you feel very energetic and very courageous and very brave and bravados rushing in, right? And you don't know what to do, but you know you have to do something. It's kind of like that fire under your butt, right? Sit with the energies. Be careful of the words you speak, the actions you take. Go within and ask the inner child, what is wounded? What do I need to assist you with? How can I assist you? And soothe that inner child. I've spoke about it before, about the chakras. The first 3 chakras are all I'm going to really focus on for this video. The very first chakra is your root. That's where your security, your safety comes from, right? And it's red. And that's how you know when you're a child, when someone's trying to harm you. It's a stop button, right? It's red. It teaches you security and safety, right? If your root chakra is blocked because your safety or your 5 senses weren't met and you fragmented, chances are you have some sort of blockage or challenge at that root chakra. If you have a challenge at one chakra, it's just like a straw you're sucking up some liquid from. If it has a hole in the bottom, anything that comes above that you're not going to get, right? So anything above the root chakra is having a challenge to function as well. And each chakra takes its function very seriously. If you don't feel safe or secure in your environment, that's going to bring up abandonment and fear and anxiety. And you're not going to understand where those symptoms or emotions are coming from. You're just going to have them, right? And above that, you have your solar plexus. And here's an interesting thing to take into account when I'm talking about these things. I know you all know what a caduceus is, right? It's the cross that nurses wear that has a snake crawling up it, and it's a cross, right? And it's the very first thing we're shown in anatomy and physiology, right? In a science book, that a human being stands in the center with their arms out in a plane position, right? And do you know that in between each chakra it measures 12 inches? Between your heart chakra and your throat chakra, it's 12 inches. Between your throat chakra and your third eye, it's 12 inches. Between your third eye and your crown, it's 12 inches. Between your heart chakra and your solar plexus, it's 12 inches, all the way down and all the way up. Why 12 inches? If you hold your hands out like this and stand inside the caduceus that I'm talking about, from here to here, it's a certain measurement. From here to here, it's a certain measurement. From down below to the ground, to your feet is a certain measurement. Doesn't matter if you're male or female, it's the identical measurements. Right? Right? And so everything you have is another thing I want you to think about, is in pairs, right? You have 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, you have 2 hands, 2 feet, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 kidneys, right? You have pairs, okay? And so the field around you, the aura that people talk about, is the etheric field, right? That is the essence of who you are that sits outside the form. That's your twin. That's your twin. That's an identical replica of you. Okay? And so if you're not in touch with this twin, you're not in touch with your higher self, right? Because you're not listening to your intuition, and the higher self is probably retreated in the background and you're not even aware it's there. That's why when I see or treat clients, if they have a dark aura or a gray aura, it's generally fear-based, anxiety, or trauma they've gone through, and they're protecting themselves, right? But if you're doing this and you're protecting yourself, your heart chakra is being blocked. If your heart chakra is being blocked, it's not performing its function. It's causing arteriosclerotic heart disease, a building up of a thickening in the arteries in your heart, right? The walls are getting thicker and thicker and thicker, and now you're becoming you have a discomfort in the body that's causing a disease in the heart. Now you have tachycardia, anxiety, or something going on that you need to take a medication for, right? And that's how it begins. That's the bundle of thoughts that we habitually run through our mind and behave and operate on. And they're the ones that you were taught. And they're not good, they're not bad, they're not indifferent. It's only what the mind says is so. So each individual is different, is separate, unique, like a snowflake. It's quite beautiful. I want you guys to just think about wrapping yourself in a heart space. Just wrap yourself in the heart space. Get along. If you can't get along, maybe isolate yourself from things that trigger you, right? Don't speak abruptly. Don't act out and respond quickly, right? Think about it and ask yourself a couple questions. Is what I'm going to do, say, or act out to the benefit of that person, that situation, and myself, or is it going to harm? And then base your decision on that. Everybody's situation is going to be different, but I want you to think about it, what's going on in these energies, and it might help you. Because Chiron, again, is going retrograde. He's the wounded warrior. Every single one of us are wounded on some level. Hello. Good morning. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, Easthead. So wrap yourself in the heart space. Soothe yourself as much as you can, any way you can. Music, if you think about the chakras, the chakras respond to music. Mostly string music, or, each chakra resonates, vibrates on a different frequency, right? And so if you can just focus on the first 3 chakras and just place your hands there, right? And ask your questions that you might have that have been plaguing you or causing you some surya in your life, right? Speaking the truth is where we find the root of our problem. That's where it starts, right? And then we can acknowledge, we can reprimand ourselves, right? If it was us misbehaving, or we can flow into the situation and say, that was not my fault. I didn't even know that was occurring. And that's what it is. You didn't even know it was occurring. And be gentle, be kind, be loving to yourself. And that is where you will begin to acknowledge the pain, the root problem, the root cause of the pain, and now you can begin to heal it with Chiron there, the wounded warrior, right? You can go deep within and say, when did this start? Is that a mental narrative I've been taught? Is that mental narrative that I keep repeating in my mind? Hold any water. Is it true? Where did I learn that? Why do I believe that? Investigate and be kind to yourself, because the moon's going to be sextiling Pluto too, and that's the God, that's the underworld, right? That's there's a change in perception that needs to take place on our planet, and healing, and that is plutonium energy. That's just showering the universe. Plutonium energy. I've had people send me videos and emails about comets coming towards the earth and other things that are going on in their place of the world, right? With these Plutonian energies, we have the capacity to heal. And if we heal, we can come out of, I know for me, because I'm doing the inner work. I've been doing the inner work for over 3 years, right? I was taught certain things, certain belief systems, and I had to literally disentangle myself. And during a shift, a spiritual awakening, there are many videos out on the internet on how to obtain a spiritual awakening, how to get a spiritual awakening, the things you need to do, how you need to meditate, you don't need to do anything except surrender to the now, to the right here, right now, and give everything to the now. And you don't seek a spiritual awakening. That's why I didn't even know about one when mine occurred, because I would have been seeking it, right? And if you seek, you won't find. And it states that in many of the biblical teachings of Christ, which I won't even go into. So, you cannot find or have someone give you or pay someone to give you consciousness. Why? Because consciousness is you are consciousness. It's like you are not the content of your life, because you are life, right? And if you identify with the content of your life and you wrap yourself up and you create an identity around that, then you're running off the egoic habitual mind pattern that 99.99% of sentinel beings are running on by no fault of their own. So if you become aware, right, then that's where it begins. Awareness. If you don't have awareness, how could you have thought? You couldn't. How could we even have this world? We couldn't, because this world wouldn't have been thought of. This internet, these things that we have in it wouldn't have been thought of and created and designed, right? Consciousness gives rise to thought, and thoughts are a bundle of energies. And if you think about emotion and you define emotions, emotions are simply energy in motion. And so, meaning, if I'm angry, then I'm going to act that out in a fearful, angry way. So it's energy in motion. I'm moving, I'm acting it out, motion. And so humanity and mankind no longer has the luxury, so to speak, because we're going to destroy one another and we're going to destroy the planet. if they don't wake up, if we don't wake up, if everyone doesn't wake up. And so there are a few that I'm aware of, isolated people, human beings that have had an experience, an awakening. Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, Michael Singer, okay? But if you look at where their location are, they're sporadically throughout the United States, right? They're not in my vicinity, and I'm not in their vicinity. So when I look around in my vicinity for an awakened soul, I find none. Because it's still isolated cases that I believe are happening. But I think awakening and destruction on our planet is happening at the same time simultaneously. The collective consciousness is rising, right? But also awakenings are arising. Why? Because the ones that are pointing the way, right? Not saying you have to do this to get an awakening, because you don't have to do any of it, right? Just be willing to accept the now and surrender to what is, and not label or identify anything or judge. Not an easy thing to do. You know, collectively, you have your own thoughts, beliefs, and limiting patterns that you were taught, and then you have the collectives. So that's why I say we're in a grip of a huge peril, because this dysfunction of the collective consciousness needs to come to an end, because there is a awakening that's arising. There is collective consciousness that seems to be, in some cases, getting extremely worse, and in some cases getting way better. Maybe better at the end. That's why I say it's simultaneously, because I think it's happening at the same time. I asked someone, because I haven't read Eckhart's book that's called Stillness Speaks. And I asked someone if I could borrow it and read it, right? And so I was reading a little bit of it last night, and it's really not a story. It's pointers and throughout the whole book. It's not something, to me, it's not a book you'll pick up and read from cover to cover, because it's only 150 pages. It's not very long. But you won't read it from cover to cover, or at least it's not meant that way. You need to read what he's saying and then contemplate the information, right? Because awareness, again, awareness gives rise to thought. So if you think of something that you weren't aware of, or are shown, or you read something that you weren't aware of, it will give rise to a different thought to you. So you might be able to assist yourself with these emotional energies right now if you just go inside and soothe yourself with the inner child. Set some boundaries, right? Set some boundaries. Communicate clearly without a emotional trigger attached to it. Like, don't initiate to irritate or create pain or suffering for another. Speak the truth. You can do that compassionately. And with Pluto being there and the moon sextiling, that's going into the underworld, and that's saying change is upon you guys. Change is upon all of us, and it's on the universe too. Plutonium energy is being cascaded into the planet right now. I use energy, see it with the naked eye, can hold it and move it and use it to the benefit of my patients, right? Or my own healing. It's not my energy. It's not me. I'm just the vehicle in which is being used. That's it. And so it would be very selfish and negative and harmful if I held that selfishness to myself when it was so graciously given to me. It's you don't want to when you awaken. You see everyone as the light of consciousness, and you just, when they behave inappropriately or badly, you just turn the other cheek and say, I forgive you, you know not what you're doing. And I'm gonna just point the way, because I'm the same as you. The light of God, the light of the world. You just don't know it yet, and I know it. That's the only difference. And so now when I say things, it's not to point a finger or push and prod or to create havoc or censure for somebody, because there's no agenda. Because the thought of sensation, the voice in the head, is, since the awakening, has completely stopped and has never returned. Yeah, the ego wants to rear its head sometimes in a situation that triggers me because it's trying to renew itself. But it is caught very early, and it's very short-lived, and it knows that it has to cooperate with consciousness, because consciousness won't tolerate the egoic mind. It dies. And that's why the voice in the head, the thought of sensation, has stopped. There's no agenda. There's no nothing. It's all on the how I feel energetically, right? I can tell by someone coming towards me, the minute they come into my field, my space, how their energy is, and because it changes in cadence, it changes in vibration, it changes in color. I can see it and know it prior to it reaching me. And so that's a gift. That's not mine. That's a gift. That's a healing gift that was so graciously shown to me that I can utilize to help point the way. And my medical background, that's just gravy. That's just icing on the cake, right? Knowing the human body, right? That's just knowledge that I learned from the experience of being a nurse for as long as I was. But if I wrap myself in an identity, oh, I'm a nurse. No, you're not. Oh, I'm a mother. No, you're not. Those are things you're experiencing in your life. Those are things that you're doing and having experiences of. But if you identify with that, just take a housewife, for instance. She may have been taught to be barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen her entire upbringing. And so her entire life she's been barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen because she knows no better. She's doing what she was taught. Is that her fault? Mm-mm. It is what it is. It's only what the mind says is so. To you, to someone else, where you see it, you're going to have a different perception because you're seeing it through the lens of a veil. And the veil, you're sitting behind the lens because the lens are your eyes. Do you remember me saying when I had my awakening how I felt like I was looking out a screen door? The perception that you see and label and have an opinion on is based on that upbringing that you were taught. That's it. So be kind to others. Wrap yourself around these energies. See what else I wrote. Anything and everything is possible. There's an urgency really to deal with issues at hand, issues that are plaguing you, that are growing, maybe bigger, and you don't know why they are, and they're not serving you or someone else. You have to gain a different perspective. Maybe dig deeper. Dig deeper to the well of the root of the problem, right? And don't have a power struggle, and find the root cause, and don't, if something's emotionally felt, I know this is hard because I know it firsthand. For about 6 months, I would get up in the morning, and right away in the morning, I didn't care what I did. I had this feeling of anger, right? And I'm like, I just got out of bed. Why am I angry? Where is this coming from? Okay. And it wasn't until I started questioning myself and why I was getting up that way, right? Well, I was taught how to get up and behave according to another person's mood. And after that being instilled in me for X amount of years, you begin to replicate that learned behavior. And so it took me like 6 months to transmute that and transcend that, because it wasn't my emotion in the first place, right? That's why I even said, where is that coming from? I just barely put my feet on the floor, right? I shouldn't be angry. I just woke up. I haven't even had coffee, for crying out loud, right? So there's this toggling that's going on right now, and it's because of Chiron and Aries, right? You might have boils of aggression that are coming up because Aries is a warrior, wants everybody to be heard, seen, and that's not going to stop. Chiron's wounded, right? And Chiron's over here wounded, so you have a wounded child and a warrior over here, both warriors. And are you riding the middle road? Or are you over here in victim mentality? Or are you over here, balls to the wall, and want to be heard regardless of whether you're right or wrong, right? So you have to find the happy medium, and the only way you do that is by going deep within. Tomorrow, Chiron's going retrograde. Be prepared. There's a cluster of tensions that are building up, and this moon in Aries is... it's going to be semi-squaring Uranus, and that's going to cause rigid chaos and tensions. And so the reason that it's bringing that rigid, chaotic tension is to bring in a breakthrough for you, for me, right? It only comes to the surface. Consciousness only brings it to the surface to resolve it. So go to the root of the problem, resolve it, and then do what you can to not repeat it. That's how you gain wisdom. That's how you grow. That's how you evolve. That's how you learn, right? You don't have to repeat the same lesson over and over in your life, right? You don't have to. So ask yourself, how am I doing? How am I doing with all this energy? What am I feeling? You can say all those things to yourself. You don't need to share them with anybody else. You can write them down in a tablet. You can ask yourself, what am I experiencing? What am I feeling? What is true? What's happening? Because the true node that's happening in this energy that I haven't even spoke of is about your truest long-term gain, like the big picture, like even if this small thing here is out of hand and bothering you and irritating you, what's the bigger picture? So clean up leftovers, close doors that need to be closed, set boundaries where boundaries need to be set. Don't have power struggles with people, places, and things. If you have a power struggle with a person, place, or thing, ask yourself, why is it so important for you to have a power struggle with that? What is the root cause of making you irritable or initiating a power struggle between another human being to cause something that's felt on an emotional level? It really helps, you know? There are things that are happening in the universe from the top down because of this plutonium energy that's being rushed in, right? And lost books of all kinds of things are being found. People are speaking about the Inca. They're speaking about, you know, the last book of Moses, or the lost books of Moses. And then there are all kinds of other ones. We're being inundated on YouTube with a lot of information that we didn't have before. Take what you know to be valid. If you form an opinion around something, You're labeling it. Don't label anything. Don't label anything, and don't push away anything. So you don't negate yourself or others. You just let them be. And if it irritates you, you just say to yourself, is my response to them because they irritated me going to be good for me and them? And if it isn't, don't do it. Walk away. You got a choice. You have free will. And so you don't have to be in a power struggle with another person. So all things are going to be heightened during this time. Everything is possible. We're all coming into some massive changes in our life. If you don't want to make those changes, eventually you're going to have to succumb to the energies. So why not do it? No one is immune, and everyone will succumb to consciousness in the end. So you might be feeling bold or brave or big. Like I was saying, you might be trying to renew something or feeling inspired or excited about something. That's the pros, right? There's some cons. You might be over dramatic. You might be trifling. You might be overwhelmed. You might be irritated. You might be angry. You might be anxious. And that's the make or break you energies. So the things that are coming up, coming to light, is the moon. And that's gonna, because the moon is semi-square Saturn. If you don't know it, that's the Lord of Karma. Now you do. And the Lord of Karma is the end of today, right? It ends today. There's close-ups that are being taken, snapshots and things that are being revealed. They have to be revealed before a new can begin, because they have to be torn down. You have to be disentangled with the old to bring in space for the new. I'll leave you with this. If you hear someone say, in the springtime I do a spring cleaning to bring in the new, they're really, in some aspects, doing a spring cleaning in two ways. Their home, their space, they're removing things they're no longer using so that they can have new things brought to them. But the house inside is the thing they're spring cleaning. What doesn't serve you, what's furniture that's been sitting there inside of you that's just been getting dusty and rotting away because it doesn't serve its purpose, it's time to clean that up. Remove it, right? Whether it's false belief systems, limiting behavior, or things you were taught, right? Investigate it. Is it true? You'll only know, and you're the only one that can answer the question. So Chiron is here to help you go into that inner child. And these energies, you should be having an amazing time. I hope you are. And if you're not, and you experience some erratic difficulties, just go with the flow. It's no different than the ocean on top. Right? You see a big wave coming in, people get all freaked out, and it's chaotic. But if you go beneath the top, the surface of the ocean, it's still. The tides come in, and they recede. And that's how consciousness is. It will come in, and it will recede. So sit in the now, soothe yourself, and stay in the heart space. I love you guys so, so much. Namaste, everybody.